Hello, and welcome back to the Simple Politics podcast. I've genuinely missed everyone. We've had a couple of weeks off. So much has happened. Obviously, Easter, obviously, mini eggs, chocolate. What?
Diane, listen, this is a lot has actually happened. Parliament was recalled during recess.
Yeah, but
Easter eggs.
what? Did it top a Ferrero Rocher egg?
Yes, it did. I was on holiday in Spain, and I said, "Oh no, we can't hang out and play paddle this afternoon because Parliament's been recalled." So I sat in the hotel room watching. It was genuinely a good debate. I thoroughly enjoyed the debate, and it was raining a bit, even though Spain. So basically, it was a win, and it was better than Ferrero Rocher.
No, but I can't. But I actually think it's
You're so posh.
dedication to the cause that on holiday you gave up a day to watch Parliament. I was in the UK and I just kept checking the live feed of various websites to find out what was going on. But
You missed out.
yeah,
You missed out. ParliamentLive.tv is available worldwide. So wherever you are, you can still tune into House of Lords Select Committees.
wow,
It's great. Yeah.
wow. There you go. Top travel tip for everybody.
Travel tip number one.
Yeah, and of course, as well as Parliament, as well as chocolate, simple money became a thing, became an actual thing.
Like it really did. We've launched it. We've done it. We've got it over the line. We've been planning and talking about it for such a long time, and we've got it over the line. And it's really, really amazing. It's better than chocolate. It's better than. Oh, that was a really good debate when they were called, but it's better than being on holiday in general. It's basically we've taken everything that makes simple politics work, I think, and we've put it into simple money. It's talking about money, and a bit like money saving expert. It's a kind of like talking about money, but also it's more like simple politics actually than it is like money saving expert. We're just focusing on. I don't know, Diane. You write most of the posts. What are we focusing on?
Well, no, I think you're right. Like, we are having really big conversations about money and this type of stuff that people don't talk about enough. Like we talk
Cricket.
we talk about like how important it is to have your finances in order and how like it just
Yeah.
domino affects so much of your life, much of
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, all of it just by not if you can kind of get yourself in a good place with money and not be worrying about money, then that's a really good thing. And so they're the conversations we're trying to have with people. Like, what do you do on payday? You know, what are ways you can cut down your big shop? All those kind of really day to day stuff, important stuff.
Do you know what? Like, friend of the producer of this podcast, Kobe, has I hope you won't mind me saying, but he's given up sugar, and he says that basically everything in life is better when he doesn't have sugar. And I kind of feel the same way about finances. Like everything in your life is better if you're not stressed about how you're going to pay that bill.
Yeah.
Right. And we can't magic you. We cannot magic you a job that pays you more. We cannot up your benefits. We can't do that. But we can just help you have better conversations, help you have better thought processes that might just help. Or you could speak to somebody else and you might be able to just say something to them or whatever it is. Better understanding, better conversations. It's what SP's tagline for 10 years has been, helping people have better conversations about politics. And now we're helping people have better conversations about money.
Yeah. That's cool.
And it's going really well.
Yeah.
It's going really, really well. We've been going, as we record, we've been going 3.5 weeks, I think. Has it been 3.5 weeks? Doesn't
Yeah.
time fly when you're having fun? Was that movie 3.5 weeks? That saucy one. 2.5 weeks, maybe.
9.5. No?
Was it 9.5? I must admit, I wasn't concentrating on the title. when I saw that in my teenage years. So 3.5 weeks in, 34,000 followers.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you can be one of them if you're not already. Get over there. Like it.
If you are one of them, well done.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Mhm.
Congratulations. I bet you are now making better financial decisions after having seen my post about NFL merch. That was an odd one. And if yeah, do come and join us. We're having a lot of fun
Mm.
with it.
Yeah.
And producer Lottie is with us today,
Yeah.
but didn't but wants to be backstage, so I'm not going to talk to her. But we're talking about her wedding over the weekend, and it's such a great. She's so amazing, and her wedding is so cool, and it's so much cheaper than my wedding, and I'm really sad, and I'm really jealous. I might try and persuade the wonderful Katie to double up, and we'll get married with Lottie and Ellie at the same time. I think that'd be better. But yeah, no, this weekend, so do join us for that post. It's going to be amazing.
Brill. Excellent. Oh, that was such a positive opener. Let's get over to the top 3 posts of the week. Tatton, take it away with post number 3.
Do you know what? I've got very little to say about post number 3. It was St. George's Day this year. And then everyone's like, oh, it's also Shakespeare's birthday. Oh, and it's also the day Shakespeare died. Because that's like the thing. I don't even know if that's
Yeah,
true.
I
It,
don't
it
believe
seems
that.
overly
Yeah.
it seems overly poetic for a poet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um like a historian dying in 1066, or like I don't know how that would work, but yeah. And then there's every now and again people claim that they would like to have a St. George's Day bank holiday, right, to celebrate us, because there's St. Patrick's Day and people do big things. It's not going to happen. Partly because it's right next to, like, Easter and May Day bank holidays. Like, they're right. There's so many. I think if we have another bank holiday, it needs to come in the autumn,
Mm.
right? And then someone actually, I was speaking to someone in person, which is rare for me. But I was speaking to someone in person, and they were saying that it does seem like everyone else has like a more strong identity. And I was suggesting that maybe historically, right, it's been, the English who have been out bashing people. Oliver Cromwell went into Wales and killed a lot of people. And then he went into Ireland and did the same. And I think that when your culture is being oppressed in that way, I mean, completely destroyed, you maintain it more than if you're the aggressor. And I'm specifically talking about Cromwell in that period, because I'm not trying to make a point about modern day politics. But if you've been oppressed, you know, by by England coming over to you, you might just hold on to your kilts or your leeks, sorry, Wales, or whatever it is that makes you you in a kind of resistance way,
Mm. Mm,
right?
yeah, possibly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Mm. It is a
if
it's a
yeah,
funny one about it is a funny one about what we mark, what brings us together, and what we've got to celebrate and be proud of. And I know it's not a bank holiday, but there is VE days coming up and the pubs are getting to
yeah,
open longer
till 1
till
a.m.
1 a.m.
Like,
Incredibly.
what? What?
Yes. Like,
Who at last drinks at midnight would be like, "Well, I haven't celebrated VE Day properly. I need another hour."
yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it is definitely something where you think, what is it that brings it together? And you're right, Tatton. So the other parts of the UK definitely have a stronger sense of um collective cultural identity than England.
But on that, I
Mm.
sort of didn't have much to say on this. On that, is it possible that we have this wartime culture that we remember very closely, and we all kind of think we'll meet again, and do all of that stuff because we were being oppressed, because
Mm.
Germany was threatening existentially our existence in that way, and so it left some kind of cultural imprint that maybe I'd like,
Ooh.
I'm not clever enough to really make an argument here, but I think that, listen, I'm just looking forward to having my eighth pint of Carling, 12:30 p.m. a.m. 12:30
AM,
a.m.
AM.
to really, because nothing says we fought them on the beaches like being smashed and doing shots at 12:30 a.m. in a pub. So excited for that.
There we go. Yes, look forward to posts the next day after that. So, um, in Act 2 this week, in Act 2, we've just talked about Simple Money, and this was a Simple Money, Simple Politics post together. And collaboration, I believe they're called. And this all stemmed from a government press release that we received that Tatton read and did some maths.
You do the math.
Yeah,
You have to say it like that. Do the
math.
math.
Um, just to try and get behind the headline, the big headline figure that came with this press release was families will save £8,000. Woo! Which sounds
It's a
amazing.
lot.
It
A lot.
sounds
Yeah.
like
I could do with that.
you'd be well chuffed with that. Um,
Lottie could have had starters at her wedding for that.
exactly. But it turns out that that sum was a bit of an accumulation of a few policies that have previously been announced. And there had to be a very specific set of circumstances for you to get the maximum benefit from each of those policies. So when you break it down, I think for me, I've got two kids. The only one that applies to me is, oh, maybe some uniform changes. Maybe that's
Oh, that's nice. You going to save 8,000
50
pounds?
quid, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, yeah, yeah. But it's just an example of actually get under the skin of a few of these things and break it down. And it was really well done. That was Tatton's post actually, breaking that down, and people did go, "Oh yes, yes, I see what they've done there."
Well, the thing is, there were a few things that added together,
Mm,
but to get up to the £8,000 figure, one of those figures was £7,500,
mm,
which is what it's going to cost. Probably not, but it's what it's going to cost, and it won't cost that. But it's what. Oh, hang on, no, that's what people might pay. It's not going to cost the government that much for childcare for their 3 or 4 year old for 1 year. The year before you go to school is when is so parents of a very, very specific age who were already spending that much money will save that much money. But yeah, to break it down, so like, oh, save 8,000, but then one of them is 7,500. It's, yeah, nonsense.
yeah, yeah. Not saying that the childcare rollout is not a bad policy. That's a good policy.
No, 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 no,
It's not
no. It's good.
that.
Yeah,
So it's not a critique of the policy. It's the way it was presented. Yeah,
yes, the messaging.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Cool. Right. What was number one? Big drum roll.
I mean, I really have very little to say about this. The Pope died, and it was like as soon as I woke up on Monday morning, and yeah, it's quite shocking. Like the Pope is the lead of however many billions of Catholics there are in the world. He was quite a progressive Pope. He fought for peace. You know, he hung out with Zelensky a little
Mhm.
bit. Um, he seems to have been I don't really know, but he seems to have been a really nice guy. Lots of people have come out and said really nice things about him. And there is now going to be a funeral, of course. Prince William's going to be there. Keir Starmer's going to be there. I think Rishi Sunak's going to turn up and then leave early to go to an interview at home. They're shaking their heads at me. I shouldn't make that joke. I think that's quite a funny joke. And they're going to find a new pope, and those guys that made that Conclave movie
Mm.
must be. I
Wow.
mean, like they are going to do well from that movie. I mean, they've really done well with that movie, but that's going to do well. Yeah, so I hope that the right person's found next. A lot of people. The Pope means very little to me. I'm not a Catholic. I like, but I know what an important person he is for so many people. So I hope that the next Pope can be a really like ninja Pope. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, a force for good, for sure.
a force for good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, great stuff. Shall we move on to some questions? You ready for some
Oh, their
questions?
questions.
We've got a couple of questions. Yes.
Oh.
So, yeah, I had a big rummage through this week's mailbag, and I've chosen to have a chat about. Question one, because we haven't covered this in top posts, I thought it was an important one to do. But Scott contacted us on Instagram and asked, "Will the government be looking to review the language of the Equality Act after last week?" And obviously, Scott's referencing the Supreme Court ruling and other things that we've Bridget Phillipson obviously did a statement this week in the Commons as
Mhm.
well. So will things change with the Equality Act after the Supreme Court ruling?
So the Equality Act is an act of Parliament, right?
Mhm.
It went through. It was the Equality Bill when the government put it through, and then it was all the stuff, and then it became an act of Parliament. So the only way to change the language of an act of Parliament is through another act of Parliament.
Okay.
So it would be the Equalities Bill, the Equalities Act, brackets, amendments, close brackets, bill, or something like that. Okay. And it's really, really rare that they do that. Now, what happened with the judgment wasn't a change of words in the Equality Act. It was a change of a making more specific the meaning of a word that's in there. Because, and we're getting quite nerdy, but it's
Mm.
important at a time like this. Once Parliament has finished with an act of Parliament, once Parliament's finished with a law,
Yeah.
they then hand it over to the judiciary,
Okay. Yep.
right? It's then up to judges and to some extent lawyers to make arguments, but it's up to judges to interpret the law that's been made. And that's why the process of making a law is so arduous, because it's got to be clear what the
Mm.
judges need to do,
Mm.
right? Parliament should be directing the judiciary clearly and specifically. Now, when the Equality Act was passed, there wasn't much of a question about the word woman on there. Like it wasn't such a there were trans women, of course there were,
Yeah.
but it wasn't such a live issue and it wasn't being considered so much. I I haven't looked at the debates around the Equality Act, but I bet you not one person mentioned trans women during that debate because it was like I say, it wasn't something within people's consciousness. The impact of this change to the Equality Act, of this not change, excuse me, this uh, judgment on the meaning of one particular word in the Equality Act remains to be seen. What it will do is it will change the paperwork, it'll change the policies of HR people. It'll change the policies of local councils. It'll change the policies of people. And we'll see that cascade down through various things. I outsource HR for Simple Politics, but I'm sure that the company that do it for us will now rewrite something. I think just finally on this,
Mm.
Scott, you're asking if they'll review the language. That suggests that they might, because obviously the government could pass another bill that said no, trans women are women and count as women under those protections because Parliament is sovereign and can change any judgment from the judges. They can change it in Parliament if they get through the votes and all of that. But that is not going to happen. We've seen that's not going to happen because the government have all welcomed the reading. right? And if you welcome it, that doesn't mean you're then going to change it as you go. So the government will make no effort to change it, and the whole country will have to respond to what is said in the Equality Act. And that doesn't mean that you have to make your toilet segregated. It's still legal to have. I mean, there's the law that said in buildings you have to have separate ones, but you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to change everything in your business to make sure everyone's separate all the time. Trans people, it was said in the judgment that trans people deserve dignity and they deserve respect and they deserve to be treated well. This is not a bill, not a judgment to, I don't know, to shit on people,
Mm.
right? Because people are still people, and we still care, and we still love, and that's important. Um,
Mm.
yeah, just be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, question 2. Um, Completely more of an open question, this. Chris asks, and I'm not sure what prompted Chris, so I I can't see what specific event has made him ask this question, but he said, what kind of systematic change could promote more honesty among politicians?
I systematically, Chris, disagree with the premise of your question.
Sorry, Chris.
I think politicians are honest. I think that people think they're dishonest. For example, so Keir Starmer won the election with change and he's all going to do all this and he's come in and he's had to do some different things.
Yes.
I don't think he was being dishonest when campaigning. I don't think he was thinking, aha, if I say this to the British people, then they will vote for me, and then I can turn around and I can take all the winter fuel payment out of all the all the old people, right? That's not what happened. He honestly, I believe, honestly did that. You know, circumstances change and people change their mind. And yes, of course, there's traps and things where people sometimes say the half truths, say the things that support their argument and not the things that don't support their argument. And that's if you're debating something,
Mm,
people are always going to do that,
mm,
right? Because politics is about choosing, and you're trying to demonstrate the choice you're suggesting is the best choice. So you're probably not gonna.
mm. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because I get that. I think like politicians, I agree, are not dishonest by nature at all. But we've had a couple that just eh,
Oh, but that's it. But
yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
Like when you have Scott Benton and when you have Boris Johnson and when you have people who do just lie for breakfast,
Mm,
right? There's 650 MPs at any single time, and like over 1,000 members of the House of Lords. So Mike Amesbury, who I think we're going to talk about later, like he's a violent thug, right? He's gone. Thank you. Um, Boris Johnson lied about stuff. Gone.
mm,
Scott Benson lied about stuff. Gone.
mm,
You know,
mm,
people could list all of those people and say they're what's wrong with politics and what's wrong with politicians. But I disagree. I
mm,
say that that's what right because they're gone.
mm,
Because as a democracy, we've kicked them out.
mm,
There's always going to be bad ones that get in. That you can't stop that. But then we get rid of them.
mm. And we've got scrutiny, and we've got scrutiny in the house, and we've got media scrutiny, and we've got or yeah. So
There's a really good A-level politics answer in that. How is the government scrutinised? It's strong work, Diane. I'm giving you a solid B.
thanks. I didn't even do it
Uh,
for A level, so I'm chuffed with that.
no, nor did I. I did teach it, but I didn't do it.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, that was the mailbox for this week. Get your questions in for next week if you've got any. We literally take any topic, any subject, as long as it's about UK politics, we will attempt,
Or
or
cricket.
cricket, we'll attempt to answer, or cats. Uh,
No, not cat.
so
Very strict rules. It's
okay.
politics or cricket. That's it.
Um,
Those are the only two
okay,
things.
fair enough.
Ferrero Rocher.
Yes, specialized subject. Um, okay, let's move on. Now, I have titled the next section Coalition Watch, and that threw Tatton because he saw the script and he was like, "Oh, amazing. We're going to talk about David Cameron and Nick Clegg."
Who wouldn't want to do that? In the rose garden, both of them having this lovely little bromance. Oh, those were the days.
No, 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 no. I want to talk about comments that Robert Jenrick made only yesterday. Well, it was only published yesterday. He actually made them a little while ago. But his comments around how potentially the Conservatives and Reform might need to build a bridge with each other if they want to defeat Keir Starmer at the next general election. Oh, that's quite a thing, isn't it?
Like, it is quite the thing. It is quite the thing. But it's difficult because there's an election next week, only the local
Mm.
elections, and Reform are going to win them by miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. Conservatives are going to lose every councillor they've ever had. They're going to lose. In fact, they're going to go back in history, and people who used to be councillors will now no longer used to have been a councillor because that's how badly they're going to be beaten.
Ooh,
Right?
yeah.
They're gonna change. Like, not only are these elections 4 years on from Conservatives doing really well, and when we measure election success, we don't say, "Oh, look, you got 20, that's really good."
Yeah.
You say, "Look, you got 20, which is 5 fewer than 25, so you've done really badly." Right? It's always comparative, and they're going to lose a lot from Boris Johnson's vaccine rollout highs. And Reform are going to do well because everyone's voting Reform at the moment. Because what Reform do, really interestingly, is they turn it into a all of them or us
Yes.
narrative.
Yeah.
So they managed to say it's 50-50. You can vote for one of them, which is all them there, or it's us.
Mm.
And that narrative, if you can make the us part popular, means you basically win 50% of the vote. Because if you take over the medium, say, us or them, 50-50, then, there's only them in the one side, they can win 50% of the vote, right? And guess who's really good at making narratives like that? Nigel Farage. Look what happened to the Brexit debate. It was all the parties saying, yeah, you really should, but they were like, no, it's us or them. And they won. We're going to see that in this election. So the Conservatives saying maybe we should have a coalition. It's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like some jilted lover coming back to the couple who are now happily getting married, probably Lottie and Ellie, saying, "Can I make a coalition with you? Can I come along as well? Can I, I'd like to be involved." Like, this ship has sailed. But what it really is Robert Jenrick saying, you should have made me the leader.
Mm.
I want to be the leader. If I'm your leader now, I will get back into bed with this lot. I'm mixing
You
my
can't
lovers
help it.
metaphors
You
here.
can't help
I can't. Just smooching on the brain. I think it's because we talked about 15 and a half weeks, whatever that movie was. If we side with them, we don't need to bicker anymore. And it just really suits the Conservatives right now to be attached to the biggest party on the right. Moderate Conservatives will leave
Yeah.
if that happens.
Mm.
But he's talking about on a council by council. He's not talking about for a massive coalition in the Commons.
Mm.
He's talking about council by council.
Mm,
Yes, Conservatives and Reform candidates should meet up if it would stop a Labour-run council.
mm,
Right?
mhm.
That's what he's talking about. And of course, it then raises questions about what happens in the House of Commons later. And, will Nigel Farage sit with on the Conservative front bench, for example? But that's not what he's talking about. He's just making a play saying we've got to be pragmatic, we've got to work with reform when we can. Kemi Badenoch.
He's in trouble, right?
Oh, she's in so much trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because it hasn't gone well, particularly. And there's going to be this ludicrously poor performance next week. And had she had a good, I mean, she's only been in power. Diane, how long has she been in power for?
6 months less? November-ish, wasn't it?
Was it?
Mm,
Yeah, I think it was because it was at conference that
mm.
they all did a speech at conference, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
They took it in turns, so it must have been November.
Mm,
Like 6 months. If she'd had a good 6 months, she could weather the storm.
yeah.
If she had a good 6 months, you could say, well, they were tough circumstances, blah, 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 blah. But she ain't.
No, but they cannot do another leadership contest. They can't.
No,
They
no.
can't.
So that's what our boy Jenrick
Mm,
is thinking.
mm.
He was number two.
Yeah.
Like Rishi Sunak was number two.
Yes. Yes.
So this soon after another one, James Cleverly just kicking himself.
Mm,
This soon after another one just goes to the person who came second.
mm,
It's Jenrick by default.
mm.
And
Mm,
he's never stopped posturing for the position.
mm.
Like literally, not for one day did he go, "Oh no, Kevin Badenoch." I think he probably said Kevin Badenoch's really great, but then as Justice Minister, he's been able to talk about all the small boats. He's been able to talk about all the things he's wanted to talk about.
Mm. Is anyone else in trouble at next week's local elections, do we think? Because the headlines are all about reform, and we haven't
Yeah,
heard a lot about whether other parties will keep the gains that they made, like the Greens, for example, um, and the Lib Dems to a lesser extent.
I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna be fine because they work on a local level.
Mm.
Like they are local. They really focus on local areas. Even at the general election, we saw the leader, the male leader whose name I
Oh,
forget.
Adrian Ramsey.
Adrian, yeah, right. Wasn't Adrian Ramsey the last one?
No. You're
Lottie,
gonna
this bit
make
can
me
go.
look now.
This bit can go.
Oh, he is the last one.
Uh,
No, it's Adrian Ramsey. But then who was the last guy? Who did it with Shan?
yeah, that's what. Jonathan Bartley.
Oh, yes, yes. There we go.
Right, that was
Back in.
back in. Uh, so, so the Greens. I mean, even in the general election, Adrian Ramsey was talking when he was debating nationally. He was talking about his constituency. He kept on name dropping his constituency into debate, into conversations, because they work best when they work locally. And it's the same story with the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats have always had a better council game, even when they got annihilated after the coalition. Their councils still stuck where they were because people who live in those areas, like Richmond and the Southwest and all of that stuff, they love a Liberal Democrat. Now, I wrote this. I wrote Liberal Democrats and Greens in my weekly email the other day, and someone got very cross with me
Mm.
for saying how sick they were of the Liberal Democrats being lumped in with the Greens, when the Liberal Democrats have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of councillors and the Greens have like not as many.
Okay.
And I said I could see the point he was making, but also I made no mention of how many they had. I just said they had similar tactics, and we can see that all the main leaders are campaigning hard,
Mm.
but Ed Davey isn't massively. I mean, he's knocking about and doing some things, but not in the local elections way, because he's just happy for his people to do
Mm.
the good things. I mean, right where I'm sitting right now, the Liberal Democrat leader, the Liberal Democrat candidate in the next election is like a scout leader, right? And my stepson does scouts, so I know him from scouts. What a lovely guy he is. Like, and it's a very Liberal Democrat thing to do, I think, scout leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Green's going to do well. Green's going to put on. Labour are going to be squeezed by Reform, because Reform's going to win so many. They're not just going to take them from the Conservatives. And let's face it, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are not massively popular
Yeah. Not right now.
right now. And people, they shouldn't do this. If you're listening, you're naughty if you do this, right? You shouldn't be looking at national politics when voting for your local candidates. But of course, everybody does.
Yeah.
So if everybody does, if you are, this is the hardest thing about democracy. If you are a decent, hardworking, intelligent, conservative councillor right now, you're going to lose your seat.
Mm.
Nothing to do with what you've done
Mm.
over the past 4 years. You're off. A lot of good people are going to lose their seats for Labour and the Conservatives.
Yeah.
So we see Greens. We're going to gains for the Greens, gains for the Democrats, massive gains for Reform, and then massive losses for the Conservative Party, and there have to be some losses for Labour if all the other people are going to be gaining.
Mm. Well, we'll bring you it as it happens, as the results flood in next Friday. Yeah.
They're a funny one, those results, aren't they?
They are.
Because they come. There's some overnight, and there's some first thing in the morning, and then there's some like still trickling in on Sunday.
Yeah, and it only really matters when you see it all. When you see the
Yeah,
yeah,
because they're such small. Yeah, but I mean, I remember the last election, 2024. There was one seat that hadn't declared, and it didn't matter. Everyone knew it was going to go Labour, but I had no closure after 3 days. So I'm on my phone. I was watching the live stream of the feed on my
Wasn't it
phone for like 4
was it a
hours.
Scottish island or something? It was, wasn't it?
It was in Scotland
Yeah.
because there was some people wandering around in kilts.
Yes. Yeah.
But just watching it and watching it so I could get some kind of closure. But I'm not going to allow myself to get into that state with the council, because some of them will not finish counting till July.
Yeah.
Right. And I need to, I can't spend all that time.
Awesome. Right. Well, watch this space next week. And it's on to the crystal ball section. So I've kind of given all of this away, but it's local elections next week in some parts of England. Yeah, I did kind of give away all of that in the last section. But there's also a by-election.
You're so unprofessional.
I know I am, but there is
Like
yeah.
everything else has been so slick.
Yes.
And then you do this.
And then to let it down at the last minute.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Sorry.
As if anyone's still listening.
But yeah, we've got a by-election as well because ex-Labour MP Mike Amesbury obviously was convicted of assault, and so it's for his seat. Um, and that will be an interesting result because I think his seat has always been Labour pretty much for a long time.
He got 52% of the vote
Mm,
of the general election.
mm,
Reform got 13, I think, 12 or
mm.
13, and they're going to win it.
Wow. Prediction.
I mean, it's not even a prediction. It's just like it's there's no way anything else happens. I've been to all the different universes, and in all of them, Reform win.
Well, we shall see. We
No,
shall see. Anything else
you
happening?
don't see. You don't need to see. I'm told you. Told you what's happening. The lovely thing about a podcast is there's no
What?
accountability,
No.
right? Well, I could say whatever I want, and
No,
and then when it doesn't happen, I'll be like, "Oh, is that what I said? I can't remember."
no.
And then we can just move on. There's no.
We will bring you. You will have to like eat a hat, do a forfeit. There'll be something.
Who was it who said they'd eat a
Paddy
hat?
Ashdown.
If that was that Paddy
Yep.
Ashdown. If that exit poll is
Yep.
true, I will eat my
Yep.
hat. He said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that Gary Lineker said he'd present Match of the Day in his pants if Leicester won the league, and then Leicester won the league, and they were shorts, like they were kind of PE shorts. He wasn't in his pants. Where everyone was like, "Y fronts, mate, let's go." But no, that wasn't. It wasn't to be. The only other thing that's happening next week is scheming and plotting and planning, because on the 8th of May, Simple Politics will be 10 years old. There will have been a decade of Simple Politics. And I got a plan for it. I mean, presumably we just have to shut the whole thing down. It's probably quite enough. 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I got to brush up my CV over the next few days, so that on the 10th. No, we were doing everything we can to do 10 more years, I guess. And we've just got to look back a bit and celebrate and laugh and cry and do all those things. I mean, it's been, for me personally, it's been quite the 10 years. So yeah, planning, building, making plans. Oh, that's planning twice. Yeah, big week of that.
Brilliant. Look forward to it. I hope there is M&S have enough Colin caterpillars in. You should phone ahead, make sure the stock's in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pre-order.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm gonna bake. I think I'm gonna bake. Yeah, I'm gonna bake like a big S and a big P, and like a big. I don't know how to do that. Like, but that's not the shape of the tin. The tin's not that shape. How do you do it? Like, I've seen these shaped cakes, but you can't buy an S and a P cake. You can buy a line cake tin. I've seen that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch some videos on YouTube.
There you go. Sorted. Excellent. Right. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's been so good to be back discussing more stuff. And as ever, if you want to support the podcast, you can do so on Patreon, which is patreon.com/simple politics. But thank you for listening and tell your friends.
No, not after this episode.
Definitely.
I think I'd like to say after this episode, please give us another go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was roping.
Onwards and
Thanks
upwards.
so much for joining us.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Bye.